Work never stops, right?
No, it never does.
Hi everyone, Zach here. I want to give everyone listening a quick heads up that during this episode we will be discussing the COVID-19 pandemic. Although we may discuss things like health and safety protocols, sanitization, and face masks, I would like to remind everyone that those on the show today are not medical professionals. For the best, most accurate health and safety information, we recommend referencing the latest United States Centers for Disease Control guidance, in addition to your local health authority. Opinions expressed in this episode may not necessarily reflect those of the club or the university as a whole. If you have questions in regards to protocols being followed on campus, please contact the Wentworth COVID-19 response team at C19team, that's C19team at wit.edu. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the CM Club podcast. I am your host, Chase K. Cook. Also on the show today are co-hosts Adam Arouk and Zach Grenier. Today we have with us Rose Conti of the Lee Kennedy Company. Rose Conti is currently Director of Interiors and Special Projects at Lee Kennedy Construction Company in Quincy, Massachusetts. As director, she oversees projects to ensure they are completed on time and within the budget while adhering to the strict standards and excellence of the Lee Kennedy Company. Rose is also a Wentworth graduate, earning her associate's degree in 1990 and coming back for her bachelor's degree in 2010. She is also a former president of the Wentworth Alumni Association and is currently a corporator on campus. Rose, we would also love to thank you so much again for taking the time to come on the show for our second episode, and I also may add, Wentworth's first ever club-hosted podcast.
How are you guys doing? Surviving in the current environment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, going well. I like the online format.
Good.
So I think we're just going to jump right in and say we would like to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show for our second episode. So first question, we'd love to know, to elaborate on yourself, your involvement, and what exactly is a corporator on campus at Wentworth.
Sure. So I have a 35-year plus experience working in the construction industry. I started off in the early 80s working as in an entry-level position in a construction group for a large insurance company. So that was sort of my introduction to construction, and it has evolved greatly in the 35 years that I've spent working in the business. My involvement with Wentworth has always been at a very high level, and as a student, obviously, and then getting involved in the Alumni Association. And then I was able to get on the Corporatorship, which is a group below Board of Trustees. That's sort of an advisory group to the president's office. And essentially what we do is help working with the Alumni Association and the president's office, on the strategic plan and so forth. And there's many committees that are formed within the group, and it's aligned with the strategic plan and the 4 pillars that President Thompson has been speaking about to introduce Wentworth into the next generation of leadership that he's providing with his team. Since I gave you that bio, I've been elected to the Board of Trustees. Last week, I was invited to the Board of Trustees and voted in as a board member. So I look forward to more involvement at a higher level and working with the president's office and the executive board and other board members on the Board of Trustees. I'm very excited to get involved at that level and serve Wentworth. So I served in so many capacities, golf committees. I chaired that for many, many years. And about 2 years ago, I passed the torch on to other folks to let them take it. And, the Women at Wentworth program. And there's just so many wonderful things, obviously, to get involved in at Wentworth. And I hope that you'll realize that as you culminate your student experience and move forward.
Yeah, there's so many organizations that are present on campus and be a part of, and the beautiful thing is you can be a part of multiple things. So like, for example, I'm on the women's volleyball team and I'm in the construction management club, and now I'm branching off to the podcast, and there's so many opportunities. There's a women's mentoring program that I was going to do, if I was going to be on campus, but unfortunately I'm not. So
Mhm.
you entered the industry when you had your associate's degree, and then you went back to Wentworth for bachelor's. How did that work, and how did that impact you professionally and personally?
So my time at Wentworth started in the early 80s when I took classes through SIPSI, and they have certificate programs as they still do now, and that's what they had when I started. And I went into the project management and construction management programs there, and took all of the certificate programs that I could take. In the late 80s is when they started their graduate study and evening classes for degree. And I signed up and took classes through SIPSI, through the evening program. And essentially, in the early 90s, I stopped going to Wentworth because I started having my family, so I sort of put that on hold. I actually had gone to a business college previously to Wentworth, and it was when I got hired in the construction division of a large insurance company in Boston that I got introduced to construction. And I met my employer through my job at this insurance company. And after 3 years working, I reached out to them and told them I was interested in a career change, asked them if they knew of anybody that might be looking for someone in an entry-level position. Well, they came back several weeks later and told me that they would like to hire me because I had worked alongside of them in my current role, and they would train me and help me with education and school. And obviously Wentworth is the place to go for anyone in the Boston area who wants to be in construction. So I took the job with Lee Kennedy Company and went to school through the SIPSI program while working full-time during the day. And essentially, after my children were born and they were old enough for me to return back to finish my degree, I did. And that was in 2010, I believe, is when I returned to Wentworth. So that was 10 years ago. And it was important to me because I wanted to finish off my resume with the educational component in check. I had the industry experience, but I felt I was lacking with getting my degree in construction management, which is what my career has been in. And I wanted to basically check that box and finish something that I started all those years ago. So coming back to me was a phenomenal experience. I was a much better student the second time around. I took it more seriously and had a lot of the industry experience to be able to really speak to the professors on a peer level. So I'm very glad I did it. And for me personally, it was just an accomplishment to finish something that I had started many years ago, and I wanted to get sort of crossed off my bucket list.
It's crazy how well known Wentworth Construction Management is on the East Coast. I mean, you're just talking to people on the street and you say you go to Wentworth for construction management, and they're like, oh, I know someone who works for this construction company who went there. Or even if I visit construction companies, I'm literally speaking to alumni. And the cool thing is they can be in anything, interior design or architecture, construction management, but they all kind of group together and like unite in project management. And it's crazy how long it's been well known. Is there anything different how they prepared you for the construction industry back then versus today, how Wentworth did it?
I mean, obviously technology has grown immensely from when I was a student in the early years to the latter years. And I would say that's probably the biggest change is the introduction of technology. AutoCAD and, the computer programming that we took and, just the whole scheduling process and, the implementation of some of the programs that were used in the latter years changed greatly.
Technology's super crazy today with BIM and green construction super big now, being sustainable.
Yep,
and
that's right.
We're still new to learning terms in the industry and certifications, so we're kind of seeing things on LinkedIn where it's CM Lean or Lead Green Associate, and we saw you were CM Lean and just wanted to hear some background info and insight on what that is.
So I was in the beta class for the first Lean classes and certifications that came out several years ago. And I took all of the classes had to take a test, and that first group of students in this class basically set the beta for the testing scores moving forward for everybody working to get certified. Now, CM lean construction is based on the derivative of the Toyota manufacturing processes. Basically, it's an elimination of waste in the construction schedule and in the construction process. We look at ways to do things that allow us to be more efficient, save time, save money. Just-in-time deliveries so that you're not moving product around the site multiple times or damaging it because of movement. And also, pre-assembling components and equipment before it gets to the site, and essentially just utilizing those practices to become more efficient. Really eliminating float in the project schedules as well, and making sure that work with the predecessors is complete so that you're not delaying the next trade. So it's a very hands-on approach to manage the process and just really optimize the schedule.
That sounds interesting, and it's interesting too that you mentioned prefabrication. I don't know if you saw on LinkedIn, I actually did an internship over the summer with T.G. Gallagher, which I'm sure you're familiar with. We do a lot of work with Lee Kennedy. It's one of the big things that's their claim to fame is prefabrication.
T.G. Gallagher is probably one of the subcontractors ahead of the curve on that, and there's many others, larger mechanical companies like Walsh Construction, Walsh Mechanical and Construction Services, and some of the larger electrical firms who have in-house building information coordinators. And essentially, they get it. We pre-design and basically virtually fabricate from these drawings that we get done, or from the cloud, essentially. We get the models in, and it really does allow us to look at the areas where we have clashes to get those areas worked out. So we're not fabricating ductwork that's going to get thrown in the dumpster because it doesn't fit. So we work through all those areas, and it helps us greatly to eliminate, again, waste on the project, and also to optimize our ability. So, but T.G. Gallagher is definitely one of those companies that definitely we work with a lot, who does a lot of prefabrication on our projects. Like I said, Walsh Mechanical as well. We're doing a very large project with them in Cambridge. So it just is a great way to preempt any issues before you get to the site and build it.
I think that's interesting too, because it just goes to show, even being a student, there's a saying is your net work is your net worth. I know you worked with T.G. Gallagher. I worked there over the summer as an intern, and I saw we had some shared connections too. We both, I'm sure, know some of the same people over there, which is great too.
Yep. Yeah, no, they're great. They're one of my favorite companies to work with. We've done some very challenging projects together.
That's great.
Yeah, the construction industry in Boston just seems like such a tight-knit community. I went to a women's networking event for the CM Club in March, and Inspire Awards at the Westin. And I just saw the same faces again, and it was amazing. And just to see women supporting each other in the industry too is amazing, and along with the many other incentives.
Yeah, no, that's a great program, and it is a very small world out there in construction, and certainly in Boston. And I find that the folks you work with on a project, you're going to come across again. And I always advise the younger employees and students working for me, treat people with respect and the way you want to be treated, and it'll come back to you. It really will, because right now you might have the upper hand in a decision, but if you're unfair or not a reasonable person to deal with, ultimately, the tables can turn and you can be on the other side of that. So it's definitely a small world, and we all know each other, and it's a great community. It really is.
Totally. We were all, looking through everything, and would love to hear the story of how you landed, navigating through the industry, and ultimately landed as your current role of Director of Interiors and Special Projects at Lee Kennedy.
So as I said, I started off in an entry-level position with Lee Kennedy Company in the early 1980s, 1983 to be exact. And from there, I worked for Lee Kennedy for 16 years, and essentially developed the business acumen and the knowledge about construction, and was a vice president when I left there. I worked there 16 years. I went to an owner's rep project management company because I wanted to see how an owner's rep side of the business worked, and really just to understand clients better. I thought if I put myself in their shoes to manage projects from their perspective, it would help me in the long run. And it certainly did, because it really helped me to be a better contractor at the end of the day. I found I always gravitated back to construction and construction management because, let's face it, that's where the rubber meets the road. We build things, we get things done. We're the orchestrators of our projects that we work on. And, that really helped me to see things from their eyes. And I went back to a construction company when I left the Sludge Real Estate Development Company in the Boston market. And I was gone for 15 years from Lee Kennedy, and they reached out to me about 6 years ago now to come back to work with them to help grow the business for our interior construction. So the reason I came back is because the company grew so much, and I felt it was a great opportunity for me. And it's my core business, interior construction, building renovations, life sciences and corporate clients and academic clients are the three major clients that I work with on a regular basis. And it just gave me the challenges that I feel that I'm most up for to manage. Working in existing buildings, older buildings especially, where you have asbestos, lead that has to be removed, and other such, structural limitations of putting infrastructure in based upon today's market and today's, types of projects. To me, those present the greatest challenge to complete because you have the ability to really demonstrate leadership and work with the team. So my role now as director is I work with our project teams, co-manage our employees within our interiors group, and essentially run with the project from the RFP stage through pre-construction and construction administration and closeout. I'm typically the link from beginning to end of the project as it morphs through estimating into operations and then into project closeout.
Yeah, interior construction seems very fast-paced, like a few months at a time. And I think it's super special because you're renovating and you're creating new, thoughtful, innovative spaces inside where people can work or gather or do something they enjoy. So that sounds like a really great part of interior construction.
And turning over the spaces to employees to use, knowing that, they're going to benefit from your mechanical and electrical systems and the infrastructure you put in place, as well as the aesthetic finishes that you put into the space as well. You provide that comfort for them, and you get to move on and do it all over again. It's very fast paced, and it's definitely a different skill set than new building construction. I find it to be much more challenging because you never know really truly what you're going to run into once you start peeling back the onion, as we say, and start doing demo and looking at existing conditions. Then you formulate the project from there. And sometimes you don't see things that you expect to see, but for the most part, after 35 years in the industry, I have a very good ability to predict sort of the future of how things are going to come out at the end of the project and what we need to look at so we don't get caught up in it, and try to lead the team to guide them through that.
I've heard in interior construction, I've heard of some construction companies who've gone like 10 weeks no construction during the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has been affecting businesses just all across the globe. And I know construction is an essential business, but there still needs to be compliance. So I was wondering how the pandemic has affected your business at all, specifically interior construction.
So when the projects were shut down by the city and the state, we obviously complied with those requirements. and our projects were shut down for a period of time. Obviously, pushes out project schedules, okay? We were very fortunate. We had folks from our team, our senior leadership team, working with the governor and mayor's office to develop the standards for COVID-19 compliance and the return to work policies. So we were ahead of the curve in that regard. We check in daily at every site in our home office with a QR code and register the 6 questions we've all come to know and love about how we're feeling that day. We take our temperature, and we do what we need to do. And if you're not feeling well, you don't come to work. We worked virtually through the shutdown. We were very fortunate that, we had ongoing projects that kept us very busy. But some of our field projects did definitely get shut down, and the impact to schedule was that they were later than what clients wanted. Time is money, so there were added costs for the delays. Just the whole cost for COVID and the sanitizing and the PPE and all of that. It's a real cost that has to get, unfortunately, pushed to the job, because you need to comply with the regulations that we're working in. And we want to provide a safe environment for our employees and the subs and any of the visitors to the site, the owners that come in to inspect it, and architects and engineers. So there's a cost to it. Some other things that we saw a delay in, materials coming from out of the USA, from other countries, because of shutdowns due to COVID hitting their economies and their countries. A lot of materials have been delayed in shipment or back ordered. So we definitely have seen impact in materials and products coming to the U.S., and the cost for them is going up. The market right now for subs and workers is still a very good market. It's a very competitive market, and we feel confident that we manage our projects very tightly to ensure that, we're in compliance with the regulations that we need to provide. And, every day, we want everyone to go home healthy and safe to their families. And that's our goal in all of this.
Yeah, I can't imagine how stressful it could be to think about being off schedule, because like you said, time is money. And if you're off schedule, it can cost the property owner. There's so many deadlines in construction. Like, all I've been learning in my classes is deadlines. So it just must be crazy to just feel off in those deadlines with the pandemic. It must be pretty stressful, but it seems like you guys have been working it out well.
Yeah, we manage it, and it is stressful. I mean, I think whatever your career is, there are stresses in each of them. Construction comes with risk. And it's how you manage that risk to eliminate the stress that we all go through every day is what's key to a successful project.
Do you have any recommendations or advice for students in construction management currently, or who are thinking about entering the industry, tips for success?
I do. My recommendation to students are study hard, get good grades, because grades do count. Okay, we do look at those. Get whatever training and designations you can while you're in school. It's going to separate you from the rest of the class. Get your builder's license in the CM program. Get your CSL, okay? Because I know there's a contracts and codes course. I took it at Wentworth, and I got my CSL. If you can get LEED designation or lean designation, these are all very important things that will distinguish you. And, education and your career go hand in hand, and it's lifelong learning is what I found. Even though you're not functionally a student anymore and you're in the workforce, at the end of the day, you're constantly learning. So keep your mind open to learning, and, codes change and requirements change by the city and governmental permitting agencies and so forth in the state, and stay, up to speed with all of that. I would say, as a member of Wentworth and the community service that I've provided to them through the years, give back to Wentworth. It's important for you to remember where you got your functional education and training, and, give it back, pay it back to other students as you get in your career, and use Wentworth as your network moving forward, because it's a very small world. We're all connected through Wentworth. No matter where I go, I was on vacation in the Dominican Republic a few years ago in the hot tub and met people from Massachusetts whose child went to Wentworth. So, that connection is always there when you least expect it. Okay. So, keep Wentworth strong and really, truly, try to pay it back. And it's not about just money and making a donation. It's about your commitment level to the school, to use the network that's provided to you as a student, and to pay it back for other students who are in your shoes trying to make it through. So, definitely those are sort of my advice, wisdom to you all. Stay engaged, ask questions when you're out in your co-ops. Understand why things are done. Don't be mechanical and be a machine just to do tasks, but understand why they need to be done, where they fit into the process, and, ask for more work when you're done with an assignment. It just, again, these are the things that will differentiate you from the numbers of students that are out in the market, not just from Wentworth, but from other colleges competing for jobs as well.
Yeah, it's a great point to give back to the school because they provide such an amazing opportunity with this high quality education, and it's important to show your gratefulness and give back and just, always be grateful every day. And that's beautiful that you're still involved with the school and still to this day you're grateful for that, which is awesome.
But certainly the Wentworth Alumni Association, WAA, is a great place for you to get started to get involved at Wentworth. And you can be involved as a student. I know the student government president sits on the alumni board and attends meetings regularly. And, it's great for us who have gone and graduated to stay connected to Wentworth through the students, because you all are so different than we were. And, with the technology changes and everything that are current, I mean, to me, it's refreshing to work with the students on the co-op program because you guys are just so eager to learn and you're so enthusiastic. And after so many years, sometimes we forget about that enthusiasm and take a different approach to it. So you guys are wonderful for us as well to work with because you bring that enthusiasm and that, that sort of bright light into the business. You're a little naive in the business sense of it, and it's a great way for us to work with you all, to mentor you, to help you understand about the business acumen, which I think Wentworth does a very good job with through their co-ops and careers group, with their class that they teach before you go on your co-op.
Yeah, a big reason why I chose to do CM was because that you learn something new every day in the industry, and every project is new. It has its own set of challenges and aspects of teamwork, and I really like that aspect, and it's awesome to just learn something new every day. And with technology advancing at a very fast pace, especially in construction and even sustainability, which is trending right now, it's just crazy to learn something new every day, and it's very hands-on and visual, which is awesome.
Yeah. No, you bring up a good point with sustainability. The whole LEED program that was established for sustainability, those have become more of the norm for projects as general operating, ways to move forward on projects, looking at where materials are coming from, and optimizing your mechanical systems and fresh air intake and so forth, and eliminating the waste on the projects and recycling, and just the way ductwork is protected and covered with plastic when it comes to the site to limit contamination and dust infiltration and so forth. So all very important components of the sustainability program that essentially get incorporated into everyday project operations.
Those were all the questions, and it was so amazing to learn from you, and thank you so much for your interest in interviewing, and it was awesome to learn from you.
Great. Thank you very much, and it was a pleasure meeting you all. And I truly mean, if anyone needs anything, reach out to me. I'm happy to, to be an unofficial mentor, answer questions, help you however I can. Okay?
Thank you. It was lovely meeting you. Thank you so
Nice to
much
meet
for
you.
coming.
You're welcome.
It was amazing to learn from you. Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to check out our podcast. The Wentworth Construction Management Club is part of Wentworth Institute of Technology, a university in Boston, Massachusetts. We are always looking for new guests. If you are interested in coming on the show, please email us at cmclub@wit.edu. If you are interested in purchasing a 30 or 60-second ad to be broadcast during our show, please email cmclub@wit.edu with your name, contact information, and a description of what you would like to promote. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just search for WIT CM Club. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the CM Club podcast.